was going to talk about self-centeredness. And as it happens, Venerable Santon gave a teaching this morning about self-centeredness. And it was so good that my self-centered mind immediately thought, this BBC is never going to live up to that. Sorry. So we've been looking quite a bit at thought training the last couple of months. And in many training texts, they use the term self-cherishing, which is the root of all our problems. But it's a confusing term because we do need some self-cherishing. We have to take care of our precious bodies, our precious mind. And the term self-centeredness that Venerable Chardon so skillfully introduced quite correctly covers the idea that I am the center of the whole universe, and the whole universe should comply with all my wishes. Now, this self-centered mind gives rise to a lot of afflictions. And I have been investigating a couple of them, in particular the 3 A's: anger, arrogance, attachment, which are actually all forms of attachment. So as for anger, for a long time I thought I was a rather calm and patient person, not so prone to anger. How mistaken I was. I may not scream at whatever is not as it should be, or a person who's in my way, or stomp around or slam with doors, but the annoyance finds other ways to express itself, like by me trying to manipulate people into behaving in the way that they should, according to my self-centered mind, intensely repairing situations that are not to my liking, as sweeping away dirt vigorously, or simply complaining. Just to give an example, I usually do some vacuuming in the morning, and almost every day the mind starts by being annoyed that the outlets are not the same all over the world. And this is followed by the irritation that the plugs here go only one way. Like in the Netherlands, you can go 2 ways, and that's much easier, and it should be the same here. And also, they go in with some difficulty. You have to really push, and then when you're doing the vacuuming, they just come out with the slightest pull. Grumble, 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 grumble. Now, the vacuum cleaner is quite bulky, and there are many nooks and corners that you also want to vacuum, and it can't get in there. Now you can take it off its foot, so it gets more flexible. But then I had to look it up, what it's called. Not the one, the part, where did it go? The hose. The vacuum hose is too short. So you can't put the cleaner on the floor and do the vacuuming. You have to carry it all the time. And then the cord is too stiff. Grumble, 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 grumble. So why don't they make it more flexible? These developers probably never vacuum themselves. That's obvious. Then we have, this is getting into arrogance. That's a nice link. So I've been having many conversations lately with particular Abbey residents, with undefined groups of Abbey residents, and with people who are not even here. And the fact that no one is aware of all these conversations is that they all just went on in my mind. And also, they're not so much conversations as rather monologues, in which I was convincing the persons in question about my opinion of some subject that I happen to have studied or have done a little bit of research about or just read about. And also I found that I mentally brag to people when a coin has suddenly dropped or a meditation has been kind of satisfying. And upon discovering that I bragged about that, I started to brag about that. On the flip side, this arrogance, the bar for all my actions is somewhere out there in the galaxy. So my motivation in the morning should be totally inspiring for everyone. And my BBCs should be brilliant. Sorry. And when I even have the slightest feeling that I don't perform up to standard, my mind goes into excuses. Sometimes the reason why I'm doing or did something did not go as well as I would have liked it to be is not good enough. So I start to make up stories. And these are sometimes worse than the real reason why I didn't do as well as I thought I would do. And, well, this has also to do with attachment, like it's attachment to my good name, fame, reputation. But there's also other kinds of attachment, like a couple of days I was slicing carrots in the kitchen using a potato peeler. And we do have some very good slicers, but they were not ideal for the job. It's much easier to do it with an asparagus slicer, but we don't have those. So why don't I get one for the Abbey? That would come in so handy. And like when I was here last time, I was given thread and needle to darn some socks, but the needle was hopeless. Thinking that the Abbey didn't have good needles and that it should, I brought a packet with me when I came back here. And then finding out that we have hundreds of needles. And then footwear. The shoes that I brought are a little difficult to get into, especially when the shoehorn has disappeared. So maybe I better get a pair of clogs. But then I regularly forget where I put my shoes. So maybe it would be good to have a pair of clogs at every entrance. That would be really practical. Now, the last couple of months, I have been very much more aware of these thoughts, the presence of these thoughts. They're basically omnipresent. And I become aware of the huge amount of time and energy that they slurp. And it was so much better to put this into something virtuous. And also knowing that they are based on a total misperception of reality, this created a wish to become free of them. Now, the environment here is so conducive to working with that. We are showered by teachings, advice and hints, constant reminders of the disadvantages of clinging to whatever and providing antidotes that we can apply. In fact, everything that I need is just here. And even if it's not always perfect, it's still quite workable, and maybe it takes a little more time and a little more creativity, but that's fine. And having few personal possessions is actually a relief. Not having clutter everywhere, not having to clean and to maintain things, it gives so much space. And the schedule that we have stimulates setting priorities, and it does not give much room for pity parties and indulging in the barrage of narratives that my self-centered mind likes to come up with. And most wonderfully, there's the monastic rituals that are performed here. So the bi-weekly confession, and recently the pravarna, where we can all confess the things that were not so skillfully done during the rains retreat. And we also invite feedback about our behavior in the past couple of months, things that we haven't been aware of. And this feedback is not meant as a way to vent our frustrations about somebody else's behavior, and it's also not a court in which people are found guilty and punished or sent away, but it is meant as a gentle and compassionate way to help each other, to accept where we are and using the means to which we are all open so that we can learn. We can learn from the not so skillful things we did, the not so skillful things that others may have done, so that we can learn to be free of the mental clutter and the non-virtuous actions. Freedom from our self-centered attitude. I don't know which source this comes from, but once Shariputra was asked what it was like to have an enlightened experience, to be liberated, and he answered, "It's like being free of a center. It's like being spread over the universe." And that feels, that sounds so wonderful, to let go of that center and to have a mind that is as vast as the universe, and to be able to give the place in the center to somebody else. And this beautifully connects to the first of the 8 verses of Thought Transformation, I think, with the thought of attaining awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings, who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. I will constantly practice holding them dear. And when I recite these verses, when I think of them, there's a longing to be free, to step out of the center, and to actually give this space away. And rather than wishing that the universe is there to function, to provide in all my frivolous wishes and wants, to see it and everyone in it, including this person, as wish-fulfilling jewels, helping sentient beings to relinquish their wishes, their frivolous wants, just to be content and to be free.